All right. I'd like to welcome everybody to Thursday, May 28th, 2020 school board meeting. Would you please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic
for which it
it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice.
justice for all.
That's kind of broken up, huh?
Yeah. I hope people got the drift on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Dr. Garden, do we have any public comment as of yet?
I'll check my email.
Well, I'll just check.
No, we do not.
Okay. So for public comment, to participate during the meeting, please submit questions relating to agenda items to Dr. Rod Garden at rgardin. So that would be RGARDIN at trycreek.k12.in.us. If you send him an email during the meeting, he will monitor his incoming messages and we will try to get an answer.
As a reminder to all participants in the meeting, if you could mute when you're not speaking, that way it cuts down the feedback for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Under opening items, okay, I've got that. Under personnel report, approve the personnel report dated Thursday, May 28th, 2020. I believe that we have a new staff member to pull out of there. But I'm going to go ahead and do the motions first and approve. Can I do those both as one? The personnel report and the approved summer grounds, or do we have to do, okay, and approve summer grounds crew. So can I get a motion on those?
So moved.
That's Lon. Is there a second?
Diana will second.
Okay. I have an motion in a second. Dr. Garden, do you have some good news for us in that?
I do. You just hired the new principal for Oak Hill Elementary School, which we're thrilled about the selection. That is Brandy Muha. That name should be very familiar to most of the members of the board, if not all, and should be very familiar in the community K through 12. Brandy was a teacher at Three Creeks for 13 years. She was also an elementary principal at Lincoln Elementary in Hanover. She was a curriculum director in East Porter County for 5 years and elementary curriculum director in Valparaiso Community Schools for the past 2 years. Brandy lives in the community. She was raised in the community. She attended Tri-Creek schools. So we're just thrilled that we have somebody with the Tri-Creek background to know our families, know how Tri-Creek works. And she just has a wonderful reputation. We had over 20 applications for the position. My administrative cabinet and I went through all those applications to narrow it down to the very best we could find. And we did 5 interviews with the interview committee of 12 people, which consisted of parents, teachers, staff members, and administrators, elementary principal. And we, like I said, we conducted those 5 interviews, and by far and large, by a great majority, unanimously, Brandy was picked as the person to be the face of Oak Hill Elementary. We're just beyond thrilled.
Congratulations, Brandy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back to Tri-Creek.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Dr. Garden and the members of the board. I really appreciate the opportunity I'm being given to work for the students, parents, and just the community of Oak Hill and Tri-Creek, and just coming home. So the original Oak Hill is where I spent a majority of my years as an elementary student. And Mr. Jack Foss was my principal. So when I think of the epitome of an elementary principal, I think of Mr. Foss. even when I became an adult, he would remember his kids when he would see me or others from Oak Hill at retirement events or other functions. And I remember having a conversation with him telling me he was so proud that one of his kids went into administration. And now I'm truly following in his footsteps. So I feel like I can ask myself every day, what would Jack do? And do my best for the school and the community. So thank you all so much for this opportunity.
Well, welcome.
Like go ahead. Go ahead, Lon, sorry.
I said, well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome back, whatever.
Yes, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've said before that this kind of this stinks as far as it goes because of the not being able to be there and shake your hands and say welcome and see your family and everything else. It's a little bit not as personal or fun doing it this way, but we
No.
truly welcome you back to Oak Hill. I've heard great things.
Thank you.
Really looking forward to working with you. So
Thank you.
okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Welcome to Tri Creek. And that took care of all of our personnel report and our summer grounds crew, so we're all set there. Under other information, so that's it, guys. I think that is basically it. There's no new business. Under other information, we have a couple things. Preliminary planning for the 2020-21 school year. Dr. Garden and Dr. Wathen will review the sanitation steps taken in anticipation of the 2020-2021 school year. No decisions have been made on what the new school year will look like. More information is needed from the Indiana Department of Education and Governor Holcomb. Dr. Garden, would you like to expand on that at all?
I would. Just to reassure our community and our parents, even though we haven't been in school or haven't been present at our buildings, a tremendous amount of work has been occurring ever since March 13th at planning for next year. There are so many pieces still up in the air, but things that aren't up in the air are some health and safety issues that we've already addressed, of things that we want to have in place for next year. We are not contemplating at this time because we don't have direction. We're not contemplating masks for kids or study carols around kids. What we are contemplating is increased hand washing. And Mr. Wathen is going to talk about what we're doing to take care of that, and increased cleaning throughout our schools and increased sanitation of our buses to make this clean as possible. We are also starting to develop protocols for when we have visitors coming into the building. First, will they even be allowed to come into the building? And if they are, what kind of protocols we're going to have in place to make sure that we're not bringing illness into our building unnecessarily. So again, just reaffirmation and for the community that we're putting our plans in place. We don't have them all because we don't have all information we need, but health and safety is our #1 priority right now. And Mr. Watson can talk about what he's already been doing with his crew and his work, make sure we're ready for whenever school starts in person again.
Good evening, everybody. So like Dr. Garden said, it's hard to know what's going to happen. So we've been trying to plan on any scenario possible that could happen. So during that time, we've ordered 6 foggers to start fogging at night as possible to help cut down some of the, viruses or flus, even that for all schools. We also ordered 600 bottles of 16-ounce hand sanitizer. We also ordered 300 cans of sanitizing wipes. And we have about 150 cases of hand soap on hand. Also 153 cases of paper towels, because it goes with hand washing. You're going to need to dry them. So we're making sure we have enough paper towels. With the cleaning, we're going to do a little more sanitizing during the day on like handrails, door handles, and all that stuff. But a year ago, we made a standing operating procedure for cleaning. And in that standard operating procedure, we have an outbreak protocol that we're going to follow on a daily routine. So yeah, we're just trying to plan for all scenarios. We also ordered 25 no-touch sanitizing dispensers that we can put out through buildings, and we're going to try to get more of those. But as you know, everything's coming hard to get at this time, so we're trying to get as much as we can per month because they only allow you to order so much per month. So that's basically where we're at with that.
Who is this speaking?
Lon, that was
Jason.
Jason Wathan.
Oh, Jason. Okay.
Right.
I didn't know who it was.
Jason, do you want to talk a little bit about the protocols you already put in place for your custodians who are working now to keep them safe?
Yes, we already put in protocols for them of course, of everything that CDC has recommended with social distancing, masks if they're closer than 8 feet. I know the CDC recommends 6, but it's easier to know if you're closer than that to use 8 feet, or if you're in the same room that they have to wear masks and gloves and all the PPE. In majority of the buildings, a lot of deep cleaning has already happened for sanitizing and getting all that ready for whenever we can reopen. So all the guidelines are in place for our staff that are following the rules. So no one has to worry about that they're not adhering to the CDC guidelines while they're in the buildings.
I do have one question for you, Jason.
Sure.
Is there, not to change the subject, but is there an update on the septic system at Lake Prairie?
There is an update. We actually sat down with Metro and Mark Harpole, the engineer that we've been working with. Mark is reaching out to the state to see if we can get a leeway to either, on the old plans, there was a future expansion for the mound system, and they're saying it wasn't sized correctly, but with possibly maybe water coming out there in the future of some sort, they may allow us to use that future plan and update our system just using that future plan that we proposed 25 years ago.
Oh, sounds good. Thank you very much.
No problem. And that's all I have unless there's other questions.
Any other questions for Mr. Watham? Okay, thank you very much, Jason. I appreciate, I'm sure that this has been a little bit taxing for our maintenance and custodial group, and I want to thank you guys for meeting that head on. So thank you very much. Okay, next would be internet connectivity, evaluation of internet service in the school district, Mr. Jay Blackman.
Yes, Dr. Garden and I have been talking about opportunities for some of our families that out in some of our areas of the community that have less than adequate internet access. This has been a problem we've had for many years. There are just some areas that will not, they either do not, or it seems like they will not have adequate broadband access through someone like AT&T or Comcast. So we've started looking at some other options for wireless specifically. And I've been contacted by a few companies that have the wireless hotspots, and they are looking at those as a solution for those families because it's a little bit more flexible. And so I did get one of those units as a demo, and just the other day I drove around our community. We had talked with the principals about getting the names of some families that possibly had indicated that they had internet access problems. So we could actually check, drive as close to the house as we could, and confirm what that connectivity looked like. I believe I had about 28 families we identified. And in checking with that, I put together a map that shows some of the areas where if we were to deploy wireless through a hotspot, that those families would have a really good chance of getting good connectivity. And I was happy to report that the majority of those families that we checked with did meet the requirements to be able to have virtual learning through Google Meets, or to be able to send work up through Echo or Google Classroom. Unfortunately, there are still some areas specifically to the west of Lake Prairie, south of Lake Prairie, as well as Schneider, that do not have the wireless tower infrastructure in there yet. And so the quality of that is either not great or in some cases non-existent. So we're still looking at solutions for those families. But the good news is that for the bulk of the rest of our community, we do have some options where we can make hotspots available to them. And we will be working on a protocol for that, how we can determine what criteria we need to have and how many of those devices that we will need. The good news is that because this is a nationwide problem, there are a lot of companies and there is a lot of funding and support coming out for schools so that that's not a burden that we have to take on ourselves and pay for. So we are hoping to be able to utilize possibly some E-rate funds as well as some of those CARES Act dollars to be able to subsidize purchasing those wireless access points and the monthly service. And hopefully we can provide that at low to no cost to those parents.
Sounds great.
So I'll have some more information on that soon, and we're continuing to work on that. So it's good news.
That's really good news. I appreciate that. I know that's always been an issue. This will date me, but I remember when when internet was really getting out here, and there was a point when I called, and I believe it was AT&T, and they said, well, from where you are, or can you see so-and-so's water tower? It was a farmer's water tower. They're like, if you can see that water tower, we can get you internet. So things at least have improved. So I do appreciate that. And that will be great news for a lot of our families, because I can imagine, I can't imagine trying to do e-learning if you have to take your kid to the school parking lot or you have to go to somebody else's house, especially during this when you're not even supposed to be leaving your home. So I appreciate all that hard work. So thank you. Okay, Dr. Garden, did we have any questions from the community?
Let me check my email again here. No.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, do we have any questions or comments from the board? I guess that means no. Dr. Garden, I'll ask you again, is there anything else that you wanted to cover?
Just I had put one other thing on the agenda there about athletics and physicals.
I'm sorry, I must have printed it beforehand. So
Yeah, you did. I changed it very quickly.
sorry.
No, it's fine. And also, Mr. Deal wants to talk about summer school opportunities.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So let me talk about athletics and physicals. We are concerned, even though IHSAA has said that outdated physicals will be permissible throughout the state. We're concerned that that's not good enough for our kids. We want the highest level of safety that we can. So our athletes who will be participating in fall sports, whenever that begins, will be required, just like in past years, to have their annual physical. Mrs. McCormick will be sending out information probably by tomorrow to let the athletes know that, so they have plenty of time to get a physical, and those physicals will be done through their own physician or healthcare practitioner. And there was a thought of, are we sending them into a doctor's office? Well, the protocols there have changed where patients wait in the parking lot, and then they get called in when it's their appointment time. So they're not going to be in an environment where they could be potentially exposed to any other kind of illness as well. We just want our athletes to know we want you to be safe, so we want you to have your physical.
Side note on that is I know we used to offer it in-house previously. We're not going to be able to do that this year, but I also wanted to let them know that there are some facilities in Lowell I know that offered, and I believe somewhere in St. Anthony's they also did it. It was like a flat fee sports physical. So if they don't have a regular doctor that they're seeing, that might be something that they can look into also that's even local. So,
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you. And then summer school.
Good evening, everyone. So just to give you a quick update, as Dr. Garden shared last week when he talked about Governor Holcomb's plan, and as you've seen in the news, obviously all of our school sites are closed for all activities except for essential ones through the end of June. As a result, summer school has been very difficult to plan. In addition, even though we don't know what July and forward looks like at this time, the messaging from Dr. McCormick and the Department of Education has been to plan for like very heavy virtual summer opportunities rather than anticipating bringing students on site before the beginning of the school year. So with that said, we are still trying to run some summer programs. One of them that we do every year is the continuation of credit recovery for those students that are credit deficient. So we do have a teacher that can monitor virtually the progress of those students who are making up their credits as we have done in previous years, and that can all be done virtually. You might recall that we have a Jumpstart program that we call Bridges for students that are currently fifth graders going into sixth grade, current eighth graders going into ninth grade. A big part of that is it's to help them with the transition. It's not necessarily just academically based, but it's to help them to get used to that new environment. Obviously, that looks a little bit different when you do it virtually because you can't necessarily get a feel for the building and the space. So we are still planning to run that program as a Jumpstart 2 weeks before, and we're planning for either a fully online version of that, or if we get guidance from the state that we can do something that's more of a blend or a hybrid, where it's a little bit online and a little bit off on site, we would do that. We're kind of planning for both scenarios currently. In addition, one of the biggest things that we want to prioritize for our kids, especially with school closure, is continuing to help those with the development of literacy skills. So we have a number of students from kindergarten all the way up to eighth grade who receive developmental reading supports during the school year and have even through e-learning in the spring. So in our summer school application, we have allotted for 6 teachers at the elementary level and 2 teachers at the middle school level to continue using our reading intervention program, which is MindPlay, which those students that are enrolled in it get direct reading instruction virtually through the computer, and then these teachers will be able to monitor their progress and essentially have office hours throughout the summer where they'll check in with the families and parents. So that's something that we haven't done before, but because literacy is so important and we don't want to see these kids fall further behind between now and then, we're going to be communicating with those families who have been using that tool throughout the spring already and invite them to continue using it throughout the summer. So communication for the parents that are listening tonight, now that the school year has come to a formal close, communication regarding those programs and invitations for students to participate will be coming out in the days ahead. If there are any questions about them, I invite anybody in the community, families, to email me, Kevin Deal at the Tri-Creek website, and you can get my email address there, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have and any that the board might have this evening as well.
I have a question for you that has been brought up to me by a few parents. And you did bring up Bridges, which is a great program, but it doesn't cover all the students. And the questions I'm getting, especially in regards to fifth graders, they used to have a tour, or they would go to the middle school to kind of, it put them at ease a little bit. They got to look around. So that is something I'm sure that then we're just going to plan in the fall, correct? Like a get to know day or something, if possible.
What they've done so far is they did put together a virtual one. I know that it doesn't have that same feeling of being in the hallways and walking up where your locker bay is and that kind of thing, but they did put together a really nice video that went out to the families that kind of was truly a virtual walk through the halls. Here's the office, here's the different spaces. So they did try to provide those incoming fifth graders with something at least. Until we get those governor's orders, we don't know exactly what it is, but the principals have been talking about what can we do to kind of help them with that transition as they make it up here. So once we get a little bit more guidance, that's definitely a program that we want to have back in place.
Okay, and the same thing with the eighth graders moving into ninth grade, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for Kevin? Good job, Kevin, thank you. Okay, Dr. Garden, anything else from you?
Yeah, I just want to add to that. We sent out last week, actually last week, Monday it was, responses for parents. They were able to submit questions online, and we had about 83 questions. And then we were able to distill those down. I think we ended up around 43 by the time we removed duplicates and then cleaned up some questions to get them nice and solid. So if parents have questions like the fifth grade one that you had, that was asked and it was in there. So if parents have questions, send them to that FAQ because we had a nice variety of questions in there, and then good solid answers that were put together by our reentry committee, which is comprised of, we have teachers, administrators, all the different administrators and directors. So everybody looked at those questions and put in their perspective on what do people need to know in response to that. So that FAQ document, Jay, did we put that on the website? I know we had made we sent it to every parent via email.
It's not on the website right now, but we can definitely get it up there. It'll
Okay,
be
so
on the front page of our district website.
great, thank you.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. Oh, I wanted to add too, people can't, since we can't see each other and
Yeah.
we're not congregated together, I don't think people understand the full impact of how much people are working. And people work remotely from home, of course, and how many hours they're putting, because they're really kind of never stopping.
Right.
Because they're always thinking, what do you need to do next? What do you need to plan? What do we need to change? And so I'm just really proud of every one of our administrators, all of our teachers, everyone who's been working. I was so encouraged. The other day I was at the high school and there's a custodian working there. She only missed a couple days and she came back to work because she didn't want to sit home, even though our employees have the opportunity that they can stay home and still be paid their wages. She didn't want to stay home. She said, I've got a job to get done. And her job was to make sure the high school continues to be clean. I said, thank you so much for doing that. So we've got some great people out there who are working harder than people are ever going to know.
I agree with you on that. And our district and our employees, I think, have really stepped up, whether it was planning and getting together a food program, our staff members that had to clean out all of those lockers and bag all of that, or our staff members that had to organize the laptop give back, with the kids picking up all their information, all of our administrators. This has been nonstop for them. On top of that, the hirings, it's been nonstop. And I know that you guys, like, everybody thinks, well, since we don't have school, nobody's doing, there's not a lot going on. There is a lot going on right now. And I think part of that also is doing all of the planning and trying to come up with different scenarios when we don't even know what we're working with. So I do appreciate all of our staff members. And something we didn't acknowledge was it's officially the school is over. The school year is done. And it's very anticlimactic this year. We had the virtual celebrations and those were awesome, but it's really a bizarre feeling saying it was the end of the school year and yet none of us came together and with the students and the other staff members. And so I just want to say thank you and congratulations to everybody, and another school year under our belt. I just hope everything gets better for everybody and we can figure out how to continue with the best possible education next year. So is there anybody else with any
What's
comments?
the next meeting?
We have an exec session, or no, that would be, the next meeting is, I'm
14th?
on my phone, so I can't look. No, it would be, what date's the next meeting? Does anybody have a calendar or anything right
Yeah,
now?
your next meeting will be June 11th. That's the second
There you
Thursday.
Second Thursday.
Right.
Yeah.
June 11th.
June 11th, and that one will continue to be a virtual meeting. And then your next meeting after that, your next public meeting probably on June 25th.
We'll get the hearing the 18th, right?
You have an executive session on June 18th, correct?
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, I hereby call this meeting closed.
Have a good one, guys.
Good night.
Okay, thank you, everyone.